Hi, this is Tanya Sheridan with InAllSassiness.com, and today I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful overlay layout with our Mulberry glitter paper and one of the Close to My Heart digital files. So I wanted to show you the full layout first, and then I'm going to take you step by step on how to create the different techniques and create the layout itself. This layout can be found in my shop, which is www.inallsassiness.com. And it is a fabulous layout. It is very monochromatic, and I think you're absolutely going to love it. So let's get started. I want to show you a couple of details on the layout. If you notice on the different pages, let me see if I can scroll down so you can see. There is quite a lot of splatter that was created with the shimmer brush and re-inker, which is something new that I want to show you today. You'll also notice that these flowers are double, let's slide it down here, double layered, so that they are cut the same way and one is flipped to the other side. So Close to My Heart's cardstock is two-toned. The darker side is the color intended, and then the lighter side is a little bit lighter of that same color. The other thing that I want to point out under the close-up camera is these little dots, which are right down here. Let's see if we can get them in focus. It doesn't want to focus, but that's okay. So these are glitter pieces of glitter paper that have been cut with a hole puncher, and then liquid glass has been applied. So it creates a gorgeous effect, especially if you need something to color match and you don't have an embellishment that you can go off of. Okay, so we are going to zoom out very slowly. There we go. And I'm going to take you step by step through the layout process. So you'll notice that I have my all-purpose mat. I tape mine down with washi tape because I think that that works really well to hold it into place, and it's easy cleanup. And then I just have it on a larger Cricut mat that's portable, and it works super well for me. So that is something that I do enjoy. You could use wax paper, you could use just old paper like craft paper to put down for your splatter and so forth. So the Mulberry is a brand new color for Close to My Heart. It was introduced in September of 2021. Because of COVID, we have not been able to get the shimmer brushes in yet. And so I really wanted to use the shimmer brush technique on this layout. So what I opted to do, and I thank my dear friend Rebecca Brown for introducing me to this, is I'm using the Mulberry re-inker, and I'm going to put it down in our craft jar. You could use a paint palette like artists use, but this works really well for me to put it in the jar. You can wash out the jar. There's just so many purposes. And then I'm using a clear shimmer brush. So once you've used the shimmer brush in the re-inker, you probably don't want to use it for anything else, because you'll notice that my tip is now mulberry in color. You could do the same thing if you wanted to. You could just you know, kind of squeeze some of the shimmer in with the re-inker, and you could use a regular paintbrush. I'm actually doing this as a large group, so I'm okay with us using our brush. But if you're at home, that's something that you could do so that you didn't have a shimmer brush in every single color. So just kind of mix it up in your little craft jar with the regular paintbrush and use that for your splatter. So I did squeeze a couple of squeezes. I do want it to be very shimmery. I'm a shimmery gal. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir it around, and I'm simply going to tap on my finger, and when I tap, it's going to splatter on my paper. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you tap and you move your finger as you tap, you will find that you are going to have tails kind of, or motion with your splattering. So I tend to, especially when I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, I tend to splatter in different sections, move my hands, and then move forward versus moving my hand as I go. Sometimes when I get in a rush, I don't do as well as I should. But so I'm going to set that aside for a second, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. Again, I want a little bit more shimmer, so I'm putting it in my craft jar, and I'm just going to tap on my finger. You can make it as heavy or as soft as you want. Totally up to you, okay? I do try when I'm doing this technique to even it out. So I try to do my left page about equal to my right page so that there's some consistency instead of having it really, really dark on one side and really light on the other side. So since I want to save this re-inker combo, I'm just going to go ahead and put the lid on and set it aside. And I grabbed my baby wipes. And the reason that I love this all-purpose mat is once you're done, you can just take your baby wipe or Clorox wipe or washcloth paper towel and just wipe it down. And it works great. It cleans it all off and you are ready to go. Now, normally speaking, I'm just gonna let it dry for a second. Normally speaking, I would have a paper towel beside me and I would go ahead and go from there. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is in your kit, you have a piece of Mulberry Cardstock. And the Mulberry Cardstock, I've actually pre-cut just for time's sake. And you're gonna cut it into 2 half-inch strips and 2 1/4-inch strips. And these are by 12, okay? So we are gonna take our tape runner and we are going to put the wider strip, I'm just gonna come right across at the top, okay? And so at this one, I have the dark side facing up. You can do whichever you choose. That's just the side that I like up. And I thought it was pretty. It created more of that monochromatic look that I was going for. So you'll notice I have my pages side by side. I really don't have to for this particular thing. Yes, I want them to line up, but I'm on the edges, so it's all good. Now this strip is the 1/4-inch strip, and with this one, I am going to do that at the bottom of each page. Now, sometimes our paper is a little bit bigger than 12 by 12. And if that is the case, which seems to be the case in this white piece here, see how my piece is just a little bit over, I would just take that into my trimmer and trim it down. And that will even it out. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes I receive a pack that's just a little bit bigger and it doesn't line up and I get confused and then I remember, oh yeah, double check that because that is sometimes the case. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down and then I'm gonna move 1 page over and I'm gonna bring back this sample so that you can see that, and we're gonna go ahead and do that page. So this is the page. I am right-handed, so I'm gonna slide down here so that you can see this under the camera. Now, the next thing I wanna do is I wanna take out my filigree glitter paper overlays. Now, you will notice that this has all these little intricate pieces. If you have a couple of pieces that didn't cut out completely with the Cricut, just take your piercing tool and just go through and they should punch out very, very easily. I tried to go through most of the ones in my kit, but occasionally I do miss one. So I'm gonna move my paper over for just a second. I'm gonna flip over this mat and I am just gonna come around the edge. And again, this is a great way or reason to use the all-purpose mat because if you get it on there, it's not a big deal. And then I'm just gonna come around and do a couple of the insides of those flower petals. Not every one, and you know yourself, if you like to use a lot of adhesive, I don't necessarily need to use a lot of adhesive on my layouts, but I use tons of foam tape, so I guess it all evens out. Okay, so that goes down. Then the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna cut your Mulberry Cardstock and you're gonna cut it to 5 1/4 by 7 1/4, and then you're gonna cut 3 pieces to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And these are all in your instructions. Of course, you can change it. That's why I included a full sheet of the cardstock so that if you prefer 4 by 6 photographs or whatever you're looking to achieve or size-wise that works with your photos, you could switch it up. I am just gonna put this, I'm gonna be very gracious with my foam tape. I do use the Close to My Heart brand. I use the thin one because I think that that is the best for me. But I like it because whether you use the narrow or the wide, it is the same height and you can go interchangeably. So normally speaking, on a bigger space like this, I would certainly use the wide but it just so happens I am out of that one. My roll just ran out, okay? So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the film off. And a trick that I've started using in my scrapbooking classes is I just pull the film off of one or two and I position it where I want. And then I go back later when I'm ready and pull the film off of the other. Just like that. Okay, so the next thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna find in your big bag all of your little accents. And you should have one bag of flowers, one bag of a title, and then some flip-flops. So I'm going to leave my flip-flops in my bag right now. I don't want to lose those. My title is I Believe in Pink. And that is the theme of my event this weekend for Scrap Pink. We're raising money for the Stephanie Spielman Fund for Breast Cancer Research. So it worked really well for me for my title. But of course you could change it and use something else. You could put I believe, you could put believe, whatever you want, okay? So now these are pretty intricate little guys. I'm gonna hold it down with my finger so that I don't tear it. And I'm gonna just come right around the curvature of the actual heart. Now, if your little pieces, your title, tore, because like I just tore mine, it's a very intricate cut. Nobody is going to know the difference, and you can piece it right back together when you glue it down. So I'm going to space it. Again, I'm not going straight. I'm just going along the curvature of the actual heart. And this is the Mulberry glitter paper. So if you want a different title, you could certainly cut one yourself. I absolutely love Close to My Heart's paper, glitter paper. The way it works so well in the Cricut, which is how these were cut, but also how it works with the thin cuts. And it just gives you so many options and opportunities. Okay, so I am including the explanation point in your kits, but I am not using it on mine. I just set it aside. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, because I want to make sure that we don't forget, is we're going to come back to this little re-inker that we have, and I am just going to use the tip of the brush. I'm going to dip it in. Hopefully you can see that. There we go. And I am going to brush it off. I don't want it too wet, and I'm going to dot my eyes. There's one in Believe, one in, and one in Pink. And so I'm going to dot those with the shimmer brushes so that it's in the correct spot. You could use a scrap of this paper, but to me it was just a little bit too big. So I went ahead and just moved on from that. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some flowers. And I'm not going to create them all. I'm just going to show you the general speaking of how to do it. So the flowers are the same shape either side, and you can flip them on either side, okay? So on this one, on the big one, I want my lighter side faced up. You can do it however you want. I just thought that that gave it some depth. The flower, the top of the flower should fit perfectly on the bottom of the flower, okay? And then I want to add some foam tape, and I want to pop it up. And I'm just going to put it in a couple of spots because that works well for me. You can do as much as you want, and you can go back afterwards if you feel like you need more of the foam tape. So I'm going to pull off the foam tape. If you are gluing it down flat, because I know that sometimes people don't like depth, and that's okay, I would use like a red line tape or something like that because you're attaching it to the glitter paper, okay? So then right down here, we're gonna do 2 of the little ones. And so for these, I want to reverse them. So I'm gonna use the light side as the bottom. And sometimes it's kind of tricky, I have to look at it. And I'm just gonna attach it directly to my flower. Like that. I'm going to set it there for a second. I use the Close to My Heart adhesive runner. I think that that is the best one on the market. I absolutely love it. And it gives you a little bit of wiggle. So you can move it around if you need to. Now for these, I want them double stacked. So I use the thin foam tape. So I'm gonna just put 2 pieces to double them up. You could also use the regular foam tape if you have that and you don't have to, you know, double it up. That's totally up to you. But for me, this works really, really well. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this one together, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put double foam underneath it. So there's 1 piece there and then 1 piece there. And I just, like I said, I just pulled the film off and made it too thick. Okay, so then I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna put that one about right there. And then there's 2 other ones. So down here and up there. Now these 2 are done the same way, but they're done flat. So I am going to go ahead and attach them. And then I wanna attach them flat to the layout. I did that because I really wanted you to be able to see the depth of the individual flowers. So I'm going to put one up here, and then I'm going to put one down here. Now yours might move a little bit based on, you know, the curvature of your layout, and that is totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to slide my little pieces out so I can pull this back down under the camera a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is you have this little bag of dots. And so these were done just with scrap glitter paper. That's all I used. And I punched it out with my hole puncher. And so I am just going to attach my tape to the back. You could use any type of tape. The tape runner is just what I have on hand, and it makes it very, very easy for me. And I just slide it right on my tape runner. So I'm going to do one on the center of the flower, and then I'm going to pull that curvature around with this flower. So just like that. And I like it because you have more wiggle room. If you were to use the glue, and I totally believe in the Tombow glue, I think it's fabulous. It's just a little bit harder to move, and then you have that wet, you know, kind of leftover if you wiggle it around. So this one works well for me. You'll notice in this layout I have it overlapping. This one I just have it down a little bit more. So it's really a personal choice. Sometimes it slides a little bit too far on my tape runner and I lose my dot. So we'll have to do that one again, but that's okay. Now, as you're looking at your layout, as you're positioning these dots, if you notice that you have, you know, some space that after your heart that's not as splattered as the other, then you can come back with your shimmer brush or your paintbrush and you can add some more splatter. Now, if you don't want it to cross over the rest of it when you're adding it, I just use Post-it notes and cover what I don't want covered or to get splattered, and that protects it a little bit, because when you're splattering it, you have a little bit of control, but you really don't have a lot of control of what you're doing. So once I have that, I do want to come down here and I'm going to kind of create a triangle for visual. And I am like the queen of not being able to do something randomly. I have a really hard time. I love the way random looks, but I have a very, very hard time doing random itself. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our liquid glass. And sometimes mine gets clogged. I use mine a lot. So I'm just going to use my piercing tool and slide right down. I do want to test off on a scrap, because I don't want my bubble to get too big, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my liquid glass, I'm going to hold my sleeve back, and I am just going to carefully do a dot of liquid glass on each of those glitter gems or those glitter pieces, and it's going to dry. Now, because it's a puddle, you do want to give it, I would say, at least 2 or 3 hours before you put it in a page protector, because you want it to totally dry. And then I'm just going to come down and do each one just like that. And that's all there is to it. So we are good with this page. You're going to do your photo there, and I am going to go ahead and slide it aside, and then we're going to finish the second page. So So the second page has this really, really cool design. This was a graphic from Close to My Heart. It's the same graphic as the big one. I just took it, manipulated it, shrunk it, and welded it. So it did take quite a lot of time. I think I got a whole movie out of it. But it's something that you can do with those images. This image is just $1. That's all you have to pay for the image. And then you can do so many different things with it. So with this one, I'm just going to come across. I'm not super worried about the adhesive coming through. I do want to show you something else that I did with it. This is my name tag that I created. It's in the slide protector, so it's got a little bit of a gloss, but it's the same graphic. I just shrunk it down even smaller. So I wanted to show you that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead, and you don't have to worry about the center of this. I know it looks a little bit funky, but with Design Space, it was hard to fill it in, and it's going to be covered. So we're going to go ahead and position this one just like that. And let's go ahead and switch out the layout so that you can see what I'm working on. Not think I'm totally a crazy town. Okay, so this is down. Now, I went ahead and put my foam tape on my mats just to save us time. And on this one, I have the light side facing up. You'll notice I again used a welt of that tape. That is totally a personal preference. I really like using the foam tape. I like it to be even, but you don't have to do that. So the first one I want to do is position over the center, and see, it covers it up. So you didn't even have to worry about how that was working. Then I'm going to go ahead and put the other two pieces down. One's going to go on the right and one's going to go on the left. Now, I know some of you like lots and lots of pictures, and you're saying, Tanya, this only allows me to do 3 pictures on one side, 1 on the other. Both of these are standard sizes. So in your kit, you do have 2 3x3 flip flaps if you choose to add additional ones, and you have a 5x7. Now, you might be asking, why did you just do 2 flip flaps instead of 3? Well, what I found is if you have 3 pictures that are really, really close together, the flip flap has a seam to protect that picture, and so they snag. So I tend to not put flip flaps directly right beside one another. Okay, so here is one of my flowers that we already did. And again, I'm going to go ahead, it's going on top of the glitter. So if you're going to do it flat, use a red line tape or a glue dot. If you're going to pop it up, then you are good with the foam tape. For these, I did all 3. So I really liked these popped up. I think that they showed a differentiation when you put it over the glitter, where the other ones I did flat. And I love this flower. This reminds me of some that we have on Flower Market. And actually on the very original Close to My Heart cartridge, which was called Art Philosophy. I still have that one. I still use it all the time, even though Cricut has advanced tremendously. Okay, so this one we're gonna flip. Let's see, we want dark on light. Sometimes it's kind of tricky to see which one is which. You'll notice I'm not using a ton of tape of the adhesive runner because it just really just needs a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead, pull this film, and again, I kind of have this triangle for your eye to follow. My mom is an art teacher, and I didn't really follow the rules all through growing up, but that is one thing that she taught me that I always remember, is to have a visual triangle. So we're going to do the 3, just like that. Then we're going to come back again with that liquid glass, right? So that we are uniform. I'm going to do my cluster of 3 here and 1 up there. And one thing that I've done, and I didn't bring it over in front of the camera, but I use my craft jars. I am all about not wasting glitter paper. It's too pretty to waste. So when we have used as much glitter paper as we can, for whatever reason, Cricut, what have you, and we just have little scraps, I will sit down with my hole puncher and just punch these little dots of the remnants and store them in my craft jar. And one of these days I'm going to label them, but they're great just to add on to a card or whatever you want to do. You can cover a boo-boo in a photograph if there's, something in the photograph you don't want on there, what have you. Okay, so again, not very good at random. It is like one of my weak points. We're going to go ahead and do the dots. And then I'm going to show you the flip flap, but I'm going to show you the flip flap on my original one because these dots are not dry. And you can journal. I think I'm probably going to journal inside one of the flip flaps. That one works really well for me. So that is the completed layout. And then what we're going to do is we are going to pull back in this guy. And I want to show you something really cool. So we're going to slide, make sure I got the right one there. We're going to slide this into the page protector. Make sure because you're doing a flip flap that you have your page on the left or right side, whichever one you're intending. In your bag, you have a 5x7 flip flap, okay? So if you haven't used our flip flaps before, there is a piece of paper, plastic here. If it is textured, then that is the side that is the adhesive. So for this one, we're gonna fold it down just like this. I usually start a tiny corner and just pin it with my finger. I'm gonna lay the flip flap on the page protector just ever so carefully. I'm gonna hold it down with my hand and just slowly go across, okay? Till I know that I've got it right. Then once I know I have it right, I'm gonna lift it and do the seam. Okay, so Close to My Heart has a brand new die. It's a tab die, and it has all kinds of really cool tabs on it. So this is one that I cut out. You can choose light or dark, either one. And normally speaking, I would attach this with red line tape, but I don't have any right beside me. So I'm gonna put red line tape here and there. And I am gonna come under my flip flap where it makes sense. Don't cover this flower. And you're gonna line it up just like that. Okay, and that's gonna create a tab, an interactive element for your flip flap. Now, I want that one to stand out more than the other one. So I have used a glitter heart or glitter flower for this one. It's still gonna go on top of the solid base, and I think I want the light side because there's more contrast. So I'm gonna do it just like that. And then I am also going to use red line tape or liquid glass, something permanent, more so than adhesive. And I'm gonna put that right on top of the tab, just like that. Now, on the inside, you could cut this tab again out of glitter paper if you want, but once it dries, it's going to flip beautifully. Now, you will notice in your little bag, and I think I gave everyone 2 extras just in case you dropped it, because they're tiny little guys. Sometimes with these bags, I just give up and I have to tear the bag to get the contents. But there is a solid dot. So all of the other ones, if you remember, were glitter. There's 2 solid ones. And I want that one to stand out. So I am gonna put that right on the center. I'm not gonna do liquid glass on that one. And that just gives you that fun little interactive element. Now for the other page, again, you can do your 3x3s. So we're not gonna do that one, but I just wanted to show you what it would look like. Those are actually gonna go here and here. And so you could flip them up. You could do one up and one down, or you could do them off to the side. I've really started doing a lot of my flip flaps off to the side because I think it just creates an absolutely beautiful, I mean, this would have 5 photographs going across. So that is what I have for you. If you have any questions, you can email me at inallsassiness@gmail.com. Otherwise, have a great day and make it sassy.